Your next promotion is within your control, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 78. At the time of recording this episode, I am noticing a lot of shifts from my clients and my students who are transitioning into the summer months, and I am calling it the summer exodus. And whether it's that you're losing team members or people are taking vacation or you would like to take vacation, I am offering up in today's episode how we can both deal with the summer exodus of both our team and ourselves, yet still use this time of space and energy to more effectively set ourselves up for that next level promotion. Listen on.
Welcome to Maximize Your Career with Stacy Mayer, a podcast about achieving your career goals while also being yourself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Maximize Your Career. I'm your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you guys again this week. Today, I am calling this the summer episode. I'll explain more about that in a minute. But before we get into that, I have a reverse shout out. And what I mean by that is I want to celebrate two of my clients who were recently turned down for job opportunities. And so that's why I'm calling this a reverse shout out. So I have two really incredible clients that are part of my Promotion Accelerator Advanced Training Program, and they both applied for promotion positions. One of them was at an external company and one was internal, but both of them were applying for vice president level roles, which was higher than what they currently hold at their organization. Both of them went through extremely rigorous interview processes with, 9 other leaders at these organizations. Both of them, quote unquote, got their hopes up. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, when they first start working with me, they say things like, well, we'll see what happens, or I don't want to put too much stock in it because who knows. And I really encourage my clients and I give them the tools to really go for the position. I actually call the opposite failing ahead of time. So when you coach with me, I'm showing you how to not fail ahead of time, to really set yourself up to be the top candidate for that role. And there's many, many reasons for this, but one of them is just so that we actually know why we didn't get the role, right? So that we can actually do something different next time, or so that we can let it go, right? So that we can learn from our process of applying for these positions. Because if we just kind of do the same thing and we don't really interview at that executive level, we don't necessarily own the fact that we could, in fact, get this job opportunity, then what we do is we really are setting ourselves up to fail ahead of time. So I coached both of these women to truly own their ability to just get this role, to nail it. I gave them all of my interview techniques. I know for a fact they knocked it out of the park. We were evaluating along the way. We were sending follow-up emails, all of those things that you're supposed to do to apply for a position. And neither one of them got the role. And the reason why I'm applauding them today is because how they responded to it. Each one of them separately, of course, sent me a note and they said, Stacy, I didn't get the role. And the word behind it was next. Next. Right? We're not always going to get the promotion that we deserve. We're not always going to get that opportunity that we interview for. This is a fact, right? This is why so many of you are inclined to say, well, we'll see, right? Because you're protecting your ego, right? If I don't get it, I don't want to feel like a failure. So I'm going to go into it already believing that it's possible that I won't get it. Instead, I coach them to fully own that it's possible to get the role, to give it 150% their best shot, to interview as that senior executive leader. And do you know what? When you do that, when you really show up that way, when you know that reason that you got turned down for that opportunity had nothing to do with you. It had to do with the hiring manager, what they were looking for. Who knows? Circumstances that are so outside of your control. But what you can control is how you respond to it. And the best thing that both of them could have said to me was the word next. Right? And we already got to work because when we were interviewing for that job, we weren't putting all of our eggs in one basket. We did have a next, right? We had other opportunities that each of these women are looking at, right? And there is a bigger, better opportunity for each of them right around the corner, and they know that in their bones. That's why afterwards, of course, they're disappointed, right? But it doesn't mean that they have to take 5 steps backwards. It doesn't mean that the next opportunity isn't like right in front of their faces. They just haven't seen it yet. So I applaud both of them so hard. And for all of you who are putting yourself out there and aren't actually getting the job that you're putting yourself out there for, I applaud you for trying, right? I applaud you for going all in, for not saying, oh, well, we'll see, it probably won't work out, right? But for really going for those opportunities, for evaluating along the way, and for knowing that you gave it your all, and that at the end of the day, it really has nothing to do with you. Next. What's next? Who wants me, right? Because you have so much value to bring the leadership table. And that is why I have this mission to get you promoted into senior executive leadership positions, because we know that whatever lucky organization gets you at the top is like right around the corner, and they are the lucky ones. This has nothing to do with your ability. It has everything to do with whatever circumstances beyond our control. So big round of applause for the 2 women inside of my promotion accelerator program who did not get the job. I love you both. You guys are amazing. Now let's get back to work and figure out what is next. So we're headed into the summer. That's what today's episode is all about. And I want to talk about the massive summer exodus. Now, there has been a lot of news floating around that people are actually quitting their jobs. As we're coming out of the pandemic, employees are demanding more flexible work time, and they're realizing that they can get that someplace else, right? So we're starting to see the flaws in the system, the flaws in our company, right? We're starting to see how they treat us as employees, and then we realize that maybe there's something better out there. And how this pertains to my clients and you as a listener is that many of my clients are the leaders of those people who are quitting, right? For the last year, we haven't had a ton of people quit because people wanted to see how this all shaked out, right? Like, it's like, we don't want to quit in the middle of the pandemic unless we already have an opportunity lined up. But now people are getting other opportunities elsewhere where they're able to work remotely, where they're able to have a more flexible lifestyle. And so, like I said, in terms of my clients and the work that we're doing, they're the leaders. They're the ones staying, and their team is leaving. So today's episode is going to partially address that. What happens when your team starts leaving on you and quitting on you? What do you do? Because your hands are tied. HR is or your organization is who gives the benefits, right? You can't tell them if they could work from home or not. You can't determine that. You can't give them a more flexible lifestyle. You can just be an incredible leader for them. So that's one thing. I don't know. Actually, 3/4 of my students and clients right now are sort of dealing with losing so many valuable members of their team. The second thing that's happening in the summer exodus is everybody's checking out because now the travel restrictions are opening up and people are taking long extended vacations. And perhaps even my clients want to take those long extended vacations, but you get a little bit worried about like, okay, well, what's going to happen once the fall gets here? Are we going to, how are we going to take care of our work in the meantime? So that's the second thing. And, for the most part, I just say, great. When I worked at the hedge fund in New York City, August was basically our down month. And I know every culture, depending on your deliverables and what's actually up in front of you in the summertime generally has that sort of down feel to it, which is perfectly fine. And then the third thing that I don't have this as a challenge for my clients because, to be honest, they're not really bringing it up, but I see it as the opportunity for them to really get their head on straight for the fall. So the majority of today's episode is really going to be about how can you use this quote unquote downtime, the slower time of the summer to reevaluate what's important to you, to really start to position yourself for those higher level leadership positions, because we all know once September, October gets here, that's when the promotion opportunities are going to start opening up for you. So I want to make sure that you're set up with all of the skills and everything that you need to really advance your career in the fall. Okay? So the first thing, I guess I'll start with number 2, right? And I kind of already addressed it, right? Your team's going on vacation. You're going on vacation. Great. Just enjoy yourself. Relax. Let your team go on vacation, right? Unless you have specific things due at a specific time, or let's say that summer really is your busiest season, don't worry about it. Don't stress. Don't spend extra energy on it. Just love on them, love on yourself, and just relax. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say about the summer exodus of people who just want time to enjoy. We have had really, for many of us, the hardest week of our entire life. And it's time to relish and just relax. So that's the first thing. The second thing is if you're losing team members. So this, like I said, I've had this actually happen with several of my students, and this is the advice that I gave them. So they have this desire to go back to their teams and apologize for the people who are leaving, right? To actually really acknowledge the people who are leaving and almost like this sort of pep talk that they want to give their team to say, we're going to be okay. We're going to come out of this. But the problem with this is that they don't feel very certain. They're not exactly sure themselves if they're going to be able to handle it, right? They're still upset that they lost their number one team member. They're still upset that they don't have control over their organization is quote unquote behind the times. That's what a few people are saying, right? We're living in another time and we have to compete and we're going to lose our employees. We're going to lose our top performers and we have to do better, right? And things like that. And that's just causing so much stress and anxiety. And so what I have coached my leaders who are losing team members, who are losing people on their team is to figure out a plan. Go through your org chart. Take the time to actually develop a strategic plan that says why you will be okay. And so instead of worrying about the perception of your team and how everybody's going to feel, and it's almost like spiraling into this depression, and then what you're trying to do is cover it up with something like a shiny bow. Sometimes I just have to tell my leaders, let's figure it out, right? Are you going to be okay and why? And is this a temporary setback? Is it a 2-month setback? Is it a 3-month setback, right? These are the ways that senior executive leaders make decisions, right? When you see a corporate leader that's just really fantastic at change management, they just knock it out of the park. They don't seem upset. They don't seem worried. They just get back to work and they just do the thing. It's because they're able to pivot, right? They're able to make these very hard strategic decisions quickly. So what does your team want from you? They want reassurance that they really are going to be okay. And the way that you're going to do that for them is to show them how and why. create a plan. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. You may just have to think about it. You may just have to decide. You don't have to get a ton of consensus on this, except for maybe with your boss, maybe. But quite frankly, your boss is freaking out too. So why don't you start stepping up and making these big, bold decisions? So that is my advice there, is that if you're losing team members, if people are quitting, stop fretting about the organization and all of these things that you can't change in terms of having a more flexible lifestyle. You wish that they did too. You wish that they prioritize diversity and inclusion. Right? All of these things that you wish, but you're stuck in this position where you don't have a ton of influence, right? That's why you're listening to this podcast, because you want to get into those higher level executive positions. So you just need to make some decisions about why you're going to be okay. And then this leads me into my third point is, and next, how are we going to get you into that higher level executive position so that you can actually start making that impact, so that you can actually start driving change at your organization, so that you can be at the table saying, look, this is not okay. I had an interview a couple of weeks ago with Jill Wiltfong, the Chief Marketing Officer at Korn Ferry. Go back and listen to that. I'll link to it in the show notes. But one of the things that when she talked about why she was motivated, and now she does have that voice at the table as the Chief Marketing Officer, but why she was motivated to get there was to create change. She wanted to be in that position of influence so that she could really be driving impact at her organization. So if that's you, two things: you're going to get to work, you're going to create that org chart, you're going to figure out how you're going to be okay, how you're going to get through this. And even if there's some temporary setbacks, you're going to put some time frames on it. You're going to figure out when you can hire. If you can't hire, you're going to figure out what you're going to do in the meantime. You're going to literally make some tough decisions and get it going. And then you're going to figure out how to get yourself into that position of influence and power at your organization so that we can really start creating some change. And that leads me to the third point of the summer exodus. So while I do want you to take the long vacation, I want you to get some headspace. Part of the reason that I want you to do that is so that you can actually start to ask yourself what really matters. Okay, so the first question I want you to ask is, why am I motivated to have a seat at the table, right? What is it that I really want to see in this world? It doesn't necessarily have to be at your organization. It could be at a different organization. So if you don't want to be motivated to have a seat at the table at your org because of whatever, where and how, like, what is it that makes you motivated to get that seat at the table? Who are the people that you want to lift up? What is the difference? What is the impact that you really want to be making? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? Like, play with this. When you're sitting on your beach vacation, just dream. Just think about it. Will it allow you to retire earlier? Will it allow you the financial freedom? Right? Will it allow you less stress because you're really enjoying the work that you're doing, because you're finally getting paid for your ideas instead of the hours that you put in at work? Whatever that is for you, I just want you to dream it up, right? Really think about, why am I motivated to have that seat at the table? And then the next thing that I want you to start playing around with is, what do I need to do over the months of July and August to really set myself up for that promotion in the fall? Now, one thing that you hear me talk about a lot is, do not wait to advocate for your promotion at your performance review. And many of you are going to have year-end performance reviews. And one of the biggest lessons that you can learn from me is that promotion criteria is set long before you get promoted. So when your performance review comes up, they've already made their decisions. So I want you to backtrack. Like, if your performance review is going to be in November, then you need to start. July and August is the thinking period, right? What do I need to do? What are those relationships I need to build? Who do I need to talk to? What are the pieces that I need to put in place? And then in the fall, you're really going to start setting yourself for that actual promotion. So you're actually going to do all of the steps that I talk about. So another step, I talked a little bit just now, you're going to be thinking about who you're going to build trust with, who are those people who could really advocate for you, how are you going to get more in front of the executive team. So that's one of the steps of my 3-part process to getting you the recognition that you deserve. And the other piece to the puzzle is getting you out of the weeds. So while you're in sort of this transitional period, I won't say downtime because I don't want to diminish the incredible amount of work that you're doing and the hours that you're putting in right now. But while you're in that transitional period and you're able to have that headspace and you're able to dream and you're able to envision what is truly possible for you, I want you to start to think about what are those things that you don't need to be a part of. How are you still showing up in the weeds every single week? How are you having conversations with your boss about your scorecard, checking in about all the details that you've been working on, right? As opposed to your big vision. So you might need to spend some time brainstorming about what is that organizational vision? What is it that I really want to start doing at my organization? What do I want to focus on? What do I want my one-on-ones with my boss to be like? And a lot of times when we're in this position where and it doesn't have to be a beach trip. It could be just the simplest space, right? Like just literally not as busy as you were before. You can even ask, I think of so many possibilities because my life personally has changed so much in the last year where I have really dedicated thinking time for myself. I've carved it out. I've put it into my calendar. I am actively prioritizing time to think about my ideas. And every senior executive leader has carved out that time for themselves as well, right? And so that's basically what you're looking at is how do I prioritize myself and my ideas so that I can start sharing them, right? What are the habits that I want to cultivate in the fall, whatever that is. And ultimately, if you take nothing else away from this episode, it is that you are going to set yourself up for your next promotion, which should happen in the fall, in advance. So the work that you're doing over the summer sets you up for a promotion in the fall. Now, as I was preparing for this episode, I had this idea in mind that I should do a training on this over the summer, and I'm pretty excited about it. So my brain has just been flooding with ideas on how to really get you guys set up so that you are just massively prepared for the fall and can really just know that you have done everything in your power to really land that next promotion. You know exactly what you need to do. And in that process, you're starting to feel better about your work. You're enjoying your work because you're more in control of your career. And essentially, like I said at the beginning of this episode, if things don't work out, if you don't get that promotion in the fall, next, right? Because your value, your belief in yourself is so high. So, all right, that is it for today. I'm so excited about the summer and all of the possibilities that are in front of you to really make sure that you are set up to become that senior executive leader by the end of 2021. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Before you go, I want to make sure you've downloaded my free promotion roadmap. This 7-step guide gives you the exact process that I walk each and every one of my clients through to get them the recognition that they deserve. You can download it for free at stacymayer.com/roadmap. That's STACYMAYER.com/roadmap.